now.
Steve, I think you were working at an airline which went through two major business transformation projects making use of modern technology. Was it changing things for passengers and for the airline?
So the short answer is yes. You know, those were, and just for those that weren't familiar, at Air Canada, we had two, we'll call them mega projects on the go that in actually November, they'll finish the second one, which is the new loyalty program, the revamped Aeroplan. And the one prior to that was PSS. And that was going from a mainframe, and I think, Christoph, you talked about the core legacy. Well, this, you know, we had spent years developing outside the core. So we had a mainframe core reservation systems with somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 to 80 quote unquote systems hanging off of it to make it work. So absolutely understand what you're doing. We replaced that. But that was really fundamentally two things. One was make it easy for the passenger, know your passenger, optimize your revenue. You know, those two projects completely revolved around there. You know, the other thing I'll add is, and we've talked about it several times, and, you know, Marco's talked about big data and the right data. And I actually, I always hated got sick of the term big data, because having, you know, whether it's a cloud or a server or terabytes of data doesn't really help you. It's having the right data. And I think I implemented an M&E system in the middle of a 787 introduction. And if those are familiar with that space, the 787 generates terabytes worth of data off every flight. 99% of it, to be very candid, is useless. I shouldn't say is useless, but it's, you know, it tells you how many times the toilet flushes. That is not a safety of flight. That is not going to make your life more efficient. That is not going to ground an airplane. So it's getting through to tangible, useful data that can help you run the airline. And I think, you know, Anne touched on outside the box and forgetting the box. You know, to me, it's over the short term, and a couple of people have talked about it, it's around just back to the basics. You know, is revenue, cost. And technology's got to be able to drive that. You know, we got to figure out a way to better manage the capacity. And, you know, that's a balance of passenger and cargo now. You know, there's one belly on an aircraft. That's, you know, you never ever want that to go out if it doesn't have mail, cargo, baggage, something in there. You want to optimize that single belly, a single view of the aircraft, a single MTOW, so you're maximizing passengers and cargo capacity on that flight, right? And on the same side, driving down, and Daniel and I have had this talk about, you know, your crew costs, your fuel costs. You know, what can technology, I'll just say technology, do to minimize those? How do you optimize your crew? How do you optimize your fuel costs, right? So I think you've got to get back to just the two basics over the short term before we get to the long term. I think Marco said it. There may not be a long term if we can't get ourselves through the short term for many carriers.